Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we will see what are some of the methods that we can apply to put processes, or also as we call them, jobs, either in the background or bring them in the foreground. Now, you might be wondering, or you might be experiencing that why would there be a need to do something like that? Like maybe if I'm doing, say, a process, maybe I have started an SSH daemon process. So I have started an SSH daemon process, or maybe a radius daemon process. So radius daemon process. And once I start this process in a terminal, then you will see that it will kind of occupy the terminal, and the output or the information regarding that daemon or that process will be displayed in that very terminal. So most of the time we do not want this type of engagement of the terminal, and we just want that the process should be started and we should be handed over to the prompt. So to do that, what we do is that once we start the process, we put an ampersand sign in front of that, and then that process gets started in the background. But putting a program in the background has got its own problem, like how can we use it if we are viewing some output, maybe some log. Then how we can maybe, once it gets in the background, how we can view that log. So we'll see how we can do that. And also there's a problem that once the program gets in the background, or maybe it is running in the terminal, then if we close the terminal, then the program gets terminated. Now we'll see that what are some of the ways that we can avoid that situation and keep the program running. So now let's quickly head over to the terminal and see some of the ways to put the jobs in the background and bring them in the foreground, and also how we can avoid the situation where we close the terminal and do not close the program. So let's head over to the terminal and see the actual working. So I am here at the Ubuntu terminal, and the commands that we're going to use to demonstrate the functionality of these background jobs and bringing them into foreground is sleep. I'm going to use this command because this command is pretty easy for understanding purposes, and also it does not do something. It's just the process that is running and just waits for the input or the time to end. So type in sleep, and afterwards you can give it the number of seconds for which it will keep on waiting, and once the seconds gets over, the process will be terminated automatically. So let's say we want to sleep say for 2000 seconds. Now once I do that, we see that this command has got hold of the terminal. Now I cannot do anything in this terminal. So what I can do is that if I press Ctrl C, then the process gets interrupted and it gets terminated. If I open up the terminal and bring it over here, and let me see if I can bring it over here. So put them side by side. And if I use the PSAUX and then grep, and then let's say grep sleep process. So there is no sleep process at the moment. If I start this process one more time and come over here, we see that indeed the sleep process is running. Now obviously, since this has occupied the terminal, if I close this terminal, we see that it also says that there is a process running the terminal. Closing the terminal will kill it. So obviously it will kill the program. But let's just go ahead with it, kill it, and we see that indeed it has gone. Now let's open it one more time, and let's try to restart the process, but this time put an ampersand sign after the command so that the process gets started in the background. So I press enter, and this time if I come over here and do a show of the processes specifically for sleep, we see that this sleep process is running indeed. But again, this process is running in this terminal, and all its child processes are running in this very terminal. If I close this terminal again and see the output, we see that although it did not give us any message that the process was running, but since it was running in the background, that very terminal, again the process has been removed from the running processes, and in fact it has been terminated. So let's open up the terminal one more time and start that job again. So let's say I press sleep 2000 ampersand, and and one more time, and third time. Now there are three jobs running or three processes running of sleep command. Now if you want to see those sleep processes, I can type in the command jobs to see the jobs that are running in this very terminal. And once I press enter, we see that we have got three sleep processes, and they are running. They have been numbered as well, 1, 2 and 3. And this 3 plus means that this is the most recent process, and then we have got 2 which has got minus with its side. Now let's also assume that maybe one of the processes, it has got logging in it, and I want to access that process one more time. Since I have not closed the terminal, so I can access that process by putting in FG or foreground and then the process number. In this case, let's just try to bring this second job on to the foreground. So I type in 2, and now indeed we have accessed that process. Now if I press Ctrl C by mistake, again I would interrupt the process and ultimately terminate or kill it. But if I want to put it back in the background, I can do that by typing in Ctrl Z, and now this process has stopped. It is not terminated at the moment or killed, it has just stopped. It is kind of in a pause state. So to put it back in the background, I can use the command. If I type in, let's say, jobs at the moment, you see these two are running, but this is stopped. So to make it run in the background, I can put in background and then 2, and now it has been put in the background. If I do jobs again, we see that again we have got 3 processes which are running in the background. Now the problem is the same, that once I close the window, all these processes will be gone. So let's see that one more time. If I do a PSAX for sleep process or grep sleep process, we see that we have got 3 sleep processes running. But if I close this terminal, the processes are gone. Now to avoid this situation, one of the ways that you can employ is that let's just pull up this terminal one more time and start these jobs again. So let's say sleep 2000 ampersand, and not only we do that, but we also append no hang up, or it would mean that do not hang up even if the terminal gets closed. I press enter, and we see that it gives the message, not only that the process ID but the job number as well, but also there's a message that ignoring input and appending output no hub.out. If I press enter, we are given the prompt, and if I do an ls over here, we see that it has this no hub or no hang up. It has created this file no hub.out, and what it would mean is that if there was any output against that process, that in this case there is sleep, but if this had been like maybe showing the log file of some process, then all that output will be going into this no hub out. Now that's the downside of this no hub command. But again, the benefit is that if we close the terminal, let's just say if I type in jobs, it shows that there is this job running. But now if I close the terminal, if I show the output of this processes, we see that sleep is indeed in there. If I close this terminal, ideally it should not close the sleep process, which we see that it is still running. Now another way to do that, to avoid that creation of no hang up file that we have seen, is the command which is disown. So let's just come over here, let's just kill this process which is sleep, and it is gone. So instead of starting this command with no hang up, let's just start it regularly in the background, and once it gets started, let's try to use that command which is disown, and after disown use %sign and then the job number. In this case job number is 1. So I press enter over here, and now if I type in jobs, we see that it is not showing in any jobs, because now this job number 1, which is to sleep for 2000 seconds, it has been disowned by this terminal, this very terminal that I'm moving around. So now it is kind of in the air, It is not being owned by this terminal anymore, but it is there. If I show you the output of this command, we see that indeed sleep command is running, and the benefit is that there is no hanger file or something like that is created or maybe being updated. And also if I close the terminal, this process will still be running, which it does. So that's the real benefit of disown command, that if you run a job in the background of a terminal, it does not get disconnected or terminated or killed once you close the terminal. Now this is all good. I mean, once we close the terminal, we do not close the program, but there is a problem with this as well. And the problem is that once the program gets disowned or gets no-hubbed, and you close the terminal, then you cannot access this program as such. You cannot see what is going on with this program. We see that program is running, but we cannot interact with it. So that's a bit of a problem. And in that case, we can use another utility which is called as screen, which is not installed by default in Debian or in Enterprise Linux as well. So to install that, you can use the command, let's say like sudo apt. This is Debian based command that I'm showing you. So you can type in sudo apt get and then install and then screen. And once you do that, the screen program gets installed. For Enterprise Linux, you can use the yum command. You can type in yum, then install, and then screen, and the screen program will get installed. So in essence, this screen utility, it multiplexes console into different processes. Or in other words, you can also say that you can open multiple virtual terminal instances into one actual terminal. And the other benefit is that if you put a job in like of this situation where you kind of disown it, then screen utility allows you to reconnect to it. So let's see how we can use this screen utility to not only protect our processes from getting killed once we close the terminal, but also to get reattached to them. So let's see how does it work. Let me just open up another terminal over here, and also if we have got, let's just kill this command sleep and see if we do not have any command running. So the way to do that is simple command, which is screen, and once you type in screen, it says that whether we want to see the next page or maybe return. So I press enter, and now although you are seeing as the same terminal which you were seeing earlier, but now we are in screen mode. We are kind of in the virtual terminal at the moment. We are not seeing it, but it is there. You can get the help on screen by typing in Control A, release Control A, and then type question mark, and you can see some of the key bindings that you can use. You can look into it in your own time. Let's just use a couple of the important ones that I want to show you. So we are in the screen session at the moment, and if I want to see that if there are any virtual terminals running or screens running as we call them, I can type in screen -ls. So we see that there is indeed a screen running, which is this one that I'm connected with. Now in order to run a process, let's start that process one more time, which was sleep 2000, and let's just put it in background. So once that is done, and if I come over here and see a graph of the process, we see that process is running now. And now what I can do is that I can close this terminal, let's say from here, close it, and if I see that if that process is still running or not, we see that that process is still running. So now in order to reattach to this process, this sleep 2000, this is still running. In order to attach to it, I can open up the terminal like this one over here, and I can type in, let's say, screen -ls. If we have more than one screen running at the moment, we are using only one screen because I've used this only once. But let's say if we are running one and we are not sure that which screen we want to attach to, so you can always use this command. And since we are only running one screen, so I can type in screen and then -R, or reattach to the screen which is available. So once we do that, we see that indeed this process has come back up with its process ID 3382, which is the same one as over here. Now let's do one thing. Let's just kill this process. So kill sleep, and we see that it's no more there. Now let's try to execute this command without the ampersand sign. I press enter, and now what I'm gonna do is that since we are in the screen mode, I'm gonna press Ctrl A and then D, and once I did that, you see that it has got changed into this, that this was the screen, it has been detached. What does it mean? That the screen that I was running on the virtual terminal, it has been detached from this terminal, but the command is still running. The sleep command is still running. If we see the output of PSAUX, we see that it is running. Now to attach to it again, the same command will be used. You can use that command either in this terminal, or maybe you can connect to this Linux machine through a remote SSH protocol, or maybe telnet, and then you can use the same command to in a terminal to reattach to a screen. So let's just try to use the same command over here. If I repeat this screen -R, we should ideally be getting the hold of this process sleep with this same process ID, which is 3515. So let's do that, and we see indeed that we have been successfully connected to this sleep process. So that's one of the utility of screen command that you can use. Now if we had been using more number of screens, like many sessions of screen had been running in either this terminal or maybe in more than one terminal, then we would see that multiple screen numbers will be displayed over here. So if we detach from a particular screen and we want to reattach to it, then the number that we would get, that in order to attach to it, we would type in screen and afterwards this number. So then we would get reattached to that particular screen number. And of course we will have to append the -R switch as well, which is for reconnect. So it will be like screen space -R, the same that we have used the command earlier, but instead of then enter, we would also put in this number. And other thing that I can show you is that, let's say if you want to lock the screen, something you want to get out and you do not want to anybody to interact with your screen session, so you can type in Ctrl A and then small x. Now once you do that, you see that it pops up the message that screen has been locked by Ahmeduddin. So the password that you need to give in is your user password which you are running for your Linux machine. So I type in my password, and we are put back to that screen session. So a very unique and great utility, this screen. I have seen people using it on their Linux machines for many months in a way that they interact with the servers remotely using screen, and once they go to a separate place, before going there they detach the terminal and then reattach it on the remote side so that they can view the activity again of the certain processes. Now if you are running in a screen session and you want to get out of it, you see if I press Ctrl C, it will kill the sleep process, but the screen process is still running. So to get out of the screen process, you can either type in exit, or you can use Ctrl A and then let go of Ctrl A and then press K. So let's just type exit, and we see that it gives the message that screen is terminating. So that's all there is to it as far as the functionality of foreground, putting the process in the background, bringing them in the foreground, and also avoiding the termination of the process if we close the terminal. I hope you have learned from this video, and I would like to thank you for viewing.